Welcome to the Conference Connection, your go-to place to get the scoop on what conferences are coming up that you need to know about. Here are your hosts, Paul Faust, president of RingBoost, and Seth Price, founder of BluShark Digital and managing partner of Price Benowitz.
How you doing? Paul Faust, RingBoost.com, and Seth Price, usual, from Price Benowitz and BluShark, here with another episode of the Conference Connection.
So excited to be back.
We are back.
And so, look, Paul, we come to conferences, and let's look at this from the vendor point of view. I don't love the term vendor, but the non-lawyer point of view at the legal conferences. You know, people come here, and one of the goals is to connect, whether it's to sell, whether it's to network, whatever it is. What are some of the things you think that people do really well? And, you know, conversely, what are some of the missteps that you see people do that are just sort of, like, to quote my kids, are cringeworthy?
A lot of those. And when I bring these, my ideas and my thoughts, I'm very passionate about this topic. It's not because I'm some genius. It's because I made every mistake. I did it wrong and I learned. Remember, you told me about my booth and something like too much of this. Here's what I'm gonna tell you as a vendor or industry partner. Don't sit at your booth all day long and then complain that there was no business here. Look, the booth is one component. There's one thing to sit there. Here's what I would do as a vendor. Know when the breaks are. Make sure you're at the booth when the breaks and the room's crowded. When the room's not crowded, if there's more than one of you can sit at the booth. The other one, go around and meet all the other vendors. We're all marketing the same people. Go walk around, introduce yourself. Hi, my name's Paul Bowles. This is what I do. What do you do? Hey, maybe we get up on a call next week, because I get, I would say 80% of my business from other vendors and other lawyers that know what I do. So I don't have to understand, when you network with me, when you meet me, you're not meeting me. You're meeting me and my entire network. So I love that you asked, it's the cringeworthy ones. Here's the cringeworthy ones. 4 people sitting in a booth all day when there's no one in the room. 3 people sitting in a booth behind laptops and on cell phones. You knew you were gonna be here, you're at a conference. It's really unapproachable when a lawyer's walking through and they see 2 people on their phones with their head down, looking at, they want to stop and talk to you. Make yourself approachable. My biggest cringeworthy is I see, a company will come and then we have these great lunches and I'll see 4 people from the same company eating at a table together. I'm like, why are you guys eating together? Why aren't you at 4 different tables? Meeting people. You'll see me a lot of times, I'll sit at 4 different tables during lunch. I'll get up and say, excuse me, and go somewhere else. There's more to the conference than just that booth. That's just like a placeholder. Go meet the other vendors, walk around, go down to the bar area, go out to the pool area when the breaks are. That's where the real kind of breaking bread in business is done.
No, absolutely. One thing that I've noticed of late, and especially as some of these conferences have gotten larger and you're seeing new levels of, sort of junior people coming to them, is that there's a balance, right? You want to be able to introduce yourself to anybody. But reading a room, if 3 people are in the middle of a deep conversation, not the time to engage. Or if you do start to engage, be able to say, you know what, I misread this. Let me make sure I give them some breathing room.
Right.
And because, look, nothing happens without taking a shot, but being strategic about it so that you're not infringing, but rather being welcomed into a conversation.
Absolutely. Come on, we're all professionals. You will see when Seth and I are smiling at it, and you'll see when Seth and I are deep in a business conversation. Don't interrupt, maybe wave, let us know that, hey, I'll see you, I'll get you in a minute. But there's an art form to going to conferences too. Just like there's an art form of being a lawyer, there's an art form of being a salesperson. You know what I say? Talk to the people who've been doing this for 20 years. Ask their advice. If any vendors ever come to me and say, hey, you mind if I shadow you for a few minutes? No, let me talk to you. We want to share the knowledge. This is an industry. And as I said, I get 80% of my business from other vendors. They're my resource too. So you're not just sitting at the booth hoping that people come to you. Walk around, network with the whole community, set up calls for later. The other one that's really important, I want to point this out, is, and I'm going to be blunt about it, lawyers are in these sessions all day long. They get a 15, 20-minute break. They got to go to the bathroom. They got to call home. They got to call their office. The last thing that they're all saying is, man, I can't wait to walk out of this room and get bombarded with 100 people trying to sell me something. Seth will come by and I'll be like, hey, Seth, look, love to talk to you later. Look, here's my card. Get to your session. It's starting. Let's pick up next week or later if you have a minute. They can't go to 50 booths and get bombarded by everybody. Respect people's time. Respect that there's a lot they're trying to do here. and just be aware of that. Kind of pay attention.
I would say, look, I know it's tough because there are people who have as their job, a quota they're trying to hit. But at the end of the day, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And if you go in with the binary buy now, right?
Which I did when I started.
Right. It is so much, of the people, take the phone number business. There are times when, and there are people in your business that are very binary. I have a number, do you want this? Well, they did enough research to know where you were. But the idea that somebody gets to know you, because if you, take Paul as a classic example. If there's any Facebook group where somebody says, where do I get a number within lawyers? There are going to be no less than 17 call Paul Faust responses. That doesn't happen overnight.
No.
And it didn't come because you did a hard sell on anybody at any one time. By figuring out how to build those relationships, whether it's as a junior person somebody asks you for advice as to how do you best work this room, that is going to create, asking a favor very often is counterintuitive because you think, wow, that's taking goodwill, but I find the opposite. That when somebody asks a favor, I very often find that builds a relationship that's very hard to do in any other way. As a more senior person, if you add value, if you see something, like you mentioned at one point where you had some cockamamie booth with crazy words all over it. I'm like, he's the phone number for effing guy.
Just write that basically.
Right, no, I saw, literally today there was a CPA guy I saw, and he had all these words on a dark background, buried, read it, and I was like, you have two things. Are you saving somebody on taxes, and do you need a new CPA? That's what you're trying to make. You do whatever creative you want, but everything else is just jumble. There was a guy with who was trying to do the ERC stuff, and there were, he had 50 words on the booth. It's, do you want free money because of COVID losses? That's it.
Well, look, if your booth's going to do all the selling, don't come here. Just
Right.
put them with and leave. The booth just has to say to me from a distance, if there's phone numbers, then I'll talk to you about it.
Right, and I guess my point was, if you can add value in any way, it may be that somebody has something sticking off of their jacket that they don't want. Anything you can do to make somebody better in any way, shape, or form, which is tough when you're
Share
sharing.
it. No, but share it.
Anything you can do that helps that. If you're in a conversation, adding value, the great, amazing restaurant you went to, whatever it is, but something that is creating that bond or that relationship. To me, that's what's going to pay dividends over time.
I've had, I don't want you to call me for a phone number. I want you to call me for everything. I've literally had lawyers call me and say, can you go sit in this session? I can't be there, take some notes for me. Or I had a lawyer, a friend of mine, came to the conference and I said, hey, what are you doing here? And he goes, this is this. I said, let's go for a walk. So I took him to 4 different booths that were things that he would need. So I didn't sell phone numbers, I didn't even talk about what I do. I just wanted to help him out.
Look, I have an SEO widget, right? BluShark does great work there. But what I find is that half the time when somebody's coming, they think they need that, but their intake is off. Not uncommon.
I get it.
But my point is, if you listen, very often you're a referral-based law firm with no extra bandwidth. You shouldn't be touching SEO. What you should be doing is figuring out how to get yourself another trialer, because right now you're going to collapse if you don't do that. And figuring out what is the real question somebody's asking, not what they think they're asking.
And not just because you want to make a sale. If you want to make a sale, you can make some quick money. You'll see the people who've been in this industry 20 years, because there's a time and a place not to sell something, to tell someone, slow down, you'll go faster. I'm a great salesperson, so are a lot of people in this room. I've literally seen lawyers walk to a conference and I said, what are you doing? He goes, I just signed with that guy for PR, then I did SEO with that guy, I'm doing billboards with this guy, and I just, do they know each other? You got 4 different marketing guys you just hired, a newsletter guy. Are they all going to talk? Is there a concern? They just got sold. Wait a minute, slow down. Maybe we talk to a marketing person, say, what's the PR strategy? You can literally go and get sold. There's great sales guys with great products, but it might not fit. Sometimes slow down.
And it's funny you say that, because it's something I've noticed reflecting on BluShark. Anybody who comes and signs up at a conference, I'm in,
Right.
on something as complicated as SEO, that client's not going to make it.
Interesting.
It's almost never. If it's that big of a decision that if somebody is that quick to go in, it's that quick to go out.
Unless they've analyzed the problem. I'm coming to this conference to sit down with 2 SEO companies. We've gone through that.
There are exceptions of everything.
Right.
No, but what I'm saying is the impulse.
Right, the impulse.
Well, and there are in areas of the industry where impulse is good, right? I mean, for example, if somebody says I want a phone number, they send you a check and it's good, it's great, God bless. But if you are selling something more complex, case management software, AI stuff, the idea that somebody's going to instantaneously at that moment commit unequivocally is generally, in my experience, a bad sign, and one that, whoa, it feels good for the minute, but when you get back, because how many people meaningfully say things at the conference that never get followed through afterwards? That's not exactly what I'm talking about, but the idea that if you have a relationship, you'll figure out what the real need is and be able to service it rather than that impulse, which again, shiny object that today, there's gonna be a different one for them tomorrow.
Or the lawyer met someone great and bought something and then goes back to his office and like, we can't use that. Like we already have that.
Or we don't have the cash flow for it.
Or it doesn't fit in with this.
Correct.
So that's why I think, especially when you're new to these conferences, don't just show up. Have a little bit of a plan. It's the website's put out, who are the speakers, who are the vendors, come a little roadmap. And the other thing I'll tell you, this is I think really important. There is going to be 1,000 pieces of knowledge here. If you try and take home 1,000 pieces of knowledge, you're going to do nothing. Leave with one or two good nuggets. Don't try and take it all in.
I'll conclude with this. My old way, which I still believe in, top 10 things, right? You take all your notes, flight home, very important, you don't wait for like a week. You start everything in your notes, top 10 things, 3 things you're gonna prioritize immediately, 4 things medium term, 3 things are great ideas you can't do. I used to that was the way I operated. As we moved to EOS, it's now taking those things and then putting them into your rocks so that you're not coming back to your office, because visionaries like myself will come back with all these ideas and flood, not good, because you're just crushing your people and you're deprioritizing, making sure that whatever ideas you get here go into your plan, and that you sort of like ask yourself. I always talk about like making sure, like sleeping on it, you get a bad review, you don't immediately respond to the person, just like that. You're gonna get a bunch of ideas, make sure you sleep on it, and then cautiously integrate it into your firm rather than crushing, because your staff already is fully maxed out. And if you put additional stuff on, it can upset the apple cart in ways that are unintended.
I'll give you one other pointer, vendor and lawyer. When you meet people, I know I'm a dinosaur, we trade business cards. Okay, in the now world, we're having our phones trade contact. When you trade contacts and I go, okay, hey, take care, take a moment. Met Seth, we talked about this, he owns a law firm, Price Benowitz, and this, because I've gotten back from conferences with a stack of business cards. I'm like, what did I talk to that person about? Like, make sure, because you could literally, if you do it right, meet 50 people in a 10-minute span. I take the time to write met him at the cabana, we were laughing about this, and we talked about this. I'm supposed to make those notes for yourself, because when you go back and you open up this stack of cards, you're not going to remember what you spoke to nobody about.
Could not, like, I'm guilty of that more than anybody, but I would totally agree. I would say my last piece of advice would be, when you're out, never offer a business card without gaining the contact information. It's almost like I've gone and offered my business card to people that want to sell me major expensive products. I never hear from them, like things that I want. And what I found is, unless you have an outbound email that then goes back to your team or back to yourself if you're smaller, so that you can then process that information, very often that business card that goes out without it's just ephemeral and it's gone.
Right. I'll save another episode for my greatest marketing thing I've ever done.
Let's do a top 10 list next time.
Yeah, one of my greatest marketing things too. Just flooding people with folders. Something we'll talk about it later. Like, here, take this. They put it in their bag and they didn't throw it out. But we'll get to that later. Anything else for
just
this
make sure
episode?
that we're told we have to like, comment, share.
And like, comment, share, and tell us what you are doing. If you have a micro conference, a niche conference, something else, we'll know about it. And we'll try and talk about it. And if you want to come on and talk about it, we can talk to you about it. You can tell people about it. We'd love to have it. This is not ours. This is ours. This is the community's. So we want it to be for everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to the Conference Connection. Make sure to hit subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you for our next episode.